Rob Allen is an IT professional with over 2 decades of experience. He spent the majority of this time working for an Irish-based MSP, which has given him invaluable insights into the challenges faced by MSPs and their customers today. Rob's background is technical, first as a system administrator, then as a technician and engineer. His broad technical knowledge, as well as an innate understanding of customers' needs, made him a trusted advisor for hundreds of businesses across a wide variety of industries. Rob has been at the coalface, assisting clients in remediating the effects of and helping them recover from cyber and ransomware attacks. Rob joined the Threatlocker team in 2021, first as VP of Operations EMEA before moving to the position of Chief Product Officer in 2023. Rob, thanks for joining me and welcome to Barcode.
Beautifully done, Chris. And you only made me feel slightly old by the 2 decades of experience.
No worries, man. Thanks for being here. So Threatlocker offers a very unique approach to endpoint security. Would you mind explaining how your product stands out from the traditional AV and endpoint protection solutions on the market today?
Sure. And unique is actually a really good word or a really good way of describing it. You could call it novel, but I think the whole COVID thing kind of gave novel a bad name over the last few years. But yeah, it is unique. It's very different. So while most security tools take the approach of basically only blocking bad things or trying to identify things as being bad and then blocking them, basically permit by default, deny by exception. They're block lists, effectively, whether it be through signatures, definitions, behaviors. They allow everything to happen unless it's known to be bad. We take that approach and we flip it on its head. So complete 180. So we only allow what is required. So basically, instead of permit by default, deny by exception, we deny by default and permit by exception. So only let run what needs to run, only let happen what needs to happen, only allow network traffic that's required, only allow programs access storage they need to. So it's a very different approach to that traditional only block the bad things strategy.
So many companies struggle with balancing security tools and usability. How would you say Threatlocker helps organizations implement strong security controls without compromising user experience?
So there's a couple of parts to this answer. I mean, the first of which, what we do basically is allow listing. The core of what we do is allow listing. So it's allow what needs to run and block everything else. Now, most people think that sounds really scary, but I would counter that the vast majority of users do the same things in the same way with the same software every single day. Now, IT guys, we think, oh yeah, we're always installing things, we're always running new things. Most users don't do that. Okay, most users use, Office, for example. They might use browsers, video conferencing tools, Teams, Zoom, a line of business application or two. Outside of that, do they often need anything else? Do they often run anything else? I mean, the likelihood is not. So the vast majority of users, fundamentally what we do is just put boundaries around that. We say, right, if you use these pieces of software in this way every day, you're not going to even know we're there. Now, if you try and download and run AnyDesk or you try and install some coupon clipper from China, then absolutely we are going to stop that. But as an administrator, basically, that's what you want. So as I said, most users are going to be fundamentally unaffected by Threatlocker running on their machines. The other pieces of the jigsaw, shall we say, are, first of all, one of the biggest problems with allow listing has always been the question of what happens when software updates. Okay, and typically what happens when software updates is it breaks, because your allow listing says, look, I know that file is called acrobat.exe, but it doesn't match my hash for acrobat.exe, so it's not going to be able to run. Now, we obviously understand that, we recognize it, and the solution we have for it is what we call built-in applications. And built-in applications are applications that we maintain application definitions for. So basically every hash associated with Acrobat, with every version since God knows back when, we will have captured, we will have added to an application definition, a built-in application definition, and that built-in application definition will get pushed down to any computer using it. So what that means is a new version of Acrobat comes out, our app team, 60 strong sitting outside the office here, working 24/7, 365, they will find it, they will capture it, or they'll download it, they'll run it, they'll capture it, and they'll add those new hashes, those new files to those built-in definitions. So fundamentally what it means is companies don't need to worry about updates causing problems or breaking their software, because effectively we're taking that responsibility on for them. The last thing to mention is just in terms of the initial building of policies, because one of the things that you need to figure out when you're deploying something like this, or when you're using something like this, is what software is actually in use, what software is needed. So when you deploy Threatlocker, it doesn't secure immediately. Okay, it's fundamentally just going to log data, but the data that it will log is primarily what is running in the environment. So we can see what programs are in use. We can see, well, that machine has got 7-zip on it. That machine over there has got WinRAR on it. We can see all of the programs, all of the software that's in use on the machines. And one of the beautiful things about this is anytime somebody tries this out, they deploy it onto their machines, they will find surprises. They will find software that they had no idea was there. They've no idea what it's doing there. Now, it could be a remote access tool. I mean, I just spoke to one of our ops guys, or one of our detect guys a moment ago. They were talking about a detection for Orclone on one of the machines. Now, I don't know if you know, Chris, but Orclone is very often used as part of ransomware attacks for data exfiltration. So if you can't use PowerShell, you're going to use something else. And very often it's a tool like Orclone. Now, Orclone is not a bad application. It's not something that's going to trigger most EDRs or most AVs, because it's a good program just being used for bad purposes. But as I said, seeing things like that, seeing that they are present in your environment is the first step to controlling them. Because you can just, if you see AnyDesk, I have a policy for AnyDesk on 10 machines. Well, I'm just going to change that policy from a permit to a deny, and it won't be able to run anymore.
So with threats constantly evolving, what steps does Threatlocker take to stay ahead of emerging threats? And can you share any, recent innovations or developments within the product side that enhance its capabilities?
Yes, and also yes. So the first part of the question, the nature of what we do, the fact that we operate with deny by default at the core of what we do, means we don't, strictly speaking, need to respond to each individual threat. So we're not like an antivirus where we need to know signatures and definitions. We're not really, and there is an exception to this that I'll get to in a second. I was going to say like an EDR where we need to know behaviors and heuristics and all that kind of stuff. Because we block by default, fundamentally, we're going to stop most of these threats in their tracks. Now, this is a bit that I'm going to contradict what I said a second ago, which is we do also have, because we've got so much data, okay, we can see what's happening, everything that's running, everything that can't run, everything that's allowed, everything that's denied, everything that's controlled with ring fencing, all network activity. We have a phenomenal amount of data, phenomenal amount of information. And the point is, there is gold in that information. There's stuff that administrators want to know about. I mean, you asked about specific examples of threats. I mean, I spoke to a hospital last week, and it's a very long, complicated story, but basically 2 hospitals, big hospital, small hospital, okay? Both hospitals are part of the same group, okay? They were compromised. Somebody bought access on the dark web, okay? Admin access to this place. They got in via VPN. They got into the big hospital, okay? They tried to run AnyDesk to give themselves persistent access. Threatlocker blocked AnyDesk. They tried to spin up virtual machines to basically do their stuff. Threatlocker blocked that as well. They also tried, effectively, after a couple of days of effectively banging their head against the Threatlocker wall in that big hospital, they discovered the other hospital, which technically was at the other end of a VPN, but they didn't know, didn't have Threatlocker running. Okay, so they could pretty much do whatever they wanted. But the interesting part of this is, and I don't know if this has been made public yet, but we actually have a quote from the ransomware gang. Okay, so as part of the negotiation between what turned into a breach in the smaller hospital and the ransomware operators, the gang actually said, oh yeah, we were in the other place first, the other environment first. And I want to quote this exactly, because I was going to paraphrase it, but it may not be exactly. Hang tight for 1 second. They said, since you have Threatlocker installed, it became clear that we couldn't use Windows machines for our purposes. Straight from a ransomware gang.
Very interesting.
To get back to the point, and that is kind of a bit of a digression, but to get back to the point, they used AnyDesk, they used Ortlone for data exfiltration. They did not run ransomware. Okay, so if your strategy is to wait for ransomware to run and detect it and hopefully respond,
you lost.
You've already lost. Your data's already for sale on the dark web, and it's just a cleanup operation. But as I said, there are aspects of detection that are important. I mean, in that particular environment, as I said, they could have had what we call a Threatlocker detect policy to monitor for things like AnyDesk. Not that it can run, it's probably been blocked by Threatlocker, but that someone has tried to run it. Or if a tool like Ortlone is used. Again, not necessarily a bad application, but can very often be an indicator of compromise if something like that is used in an environment. So again, not to contradict the whole control message, which is fundamentally the core of what we do, it is to sprinkle a little bit of detection on top of those controls.
Very good, Rob. I want to thank you so much for stopping by Barcode. I just heard last call. Do you have time for one more?
Oh, yeah, of course.
If you decided to open a cybersecurity themed bar, what would the name be and what would your signature drink be called?
We'll go for The Locker as the name of the bar, and the drink is the Cyber Hero.
Nice.
Oh, wait, I have a better one.
Okay.
Cider Hero. Boom!
Cider Hero.
Boom!
Love it.
Yes, okay. The Locker and the Cider Hero.
Well, Rob, thanks again. Really appreciate your time. And before you go, let our audience here at Barcode know where they can connect with you and connect with Threatlocker online.
Threatlocker.com. We also do YouTubes, and I'm now going to sound like every YouTuber my kids watch all the time, but smash that subscribe button. We do webinars. We've got all sorts of fun and interesting and sometimes entertaining things there. We are at Black Hat, obviously. I'm not personally, which I know is going to disappoint most of you, but that's okay. You'll have to make do with Danny. And I think that answers the question.
Rob, thanks so much, man. You take care.
Pleasure, Chris. Thank you very much.